Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Feiner.
In our top story, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu read from the Bible during his weekly cabinet meeting as a way of refuting the UNESCO designation of the Tomb of the Patriarchs in Hebron as a so-called Palestinian heritage site. The Israeli leader cited the book of Genesis, chapter 23, verses 16 through 19, in which Abraham purchased the Maccabiah cave in the land of Canaan to bury his wife Sarah. Abraham was also eventually entombed there, along with Isaac and Jacob and their wives. The Jewish people have worshipped at the sacred shrine for more than 2,000 years, making it the oldest continuously used intact prayer structure in the world. In the 14th century, Muslim conquerors built a mosque on top of the holy ground. The Israeli premier called the UN Cultural Agency's resolution delusional, and he questioned how the site where the patriarchs and matriarchs of Judaism are buried could not be considered Jewish. Israel protested the move with the further withholding of membership fees to the world body in the sixth such action this year. $1 million will instead be diverted to build a Jewish heritage museum in Hebron.
The United States also blasted the UNESCO resolution on Hebron. Washington's UN ambassador Nikki Haley called the vote harmful and tragic on many levels. She said that it first and foremost represents an affront to history. The American diplomat added that such decisions also undermine the trust that is necessary to advance the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, while further discrediting an already highly questionable UN agency. Haley went on to stress that these kinds of decisions will impact America's deliberation over whether to even remain a member of UNESCO. The White House stopped funding the agency after it admitted the Palestinians as a member state in 2011, although the U.S. is still on the 58-member UNESCO Executive Board for the time being.
A leading Palestinian Authority official publicly declared that U.S. Ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, is not wanted in Ramallah. A member of the Fatah Central Committee, headed by PA President Mahmoud Abbas, said that the Palestinian negotiators are willing to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump's peace envoy, Jason Greenblatt, in West Jerusalem because they do not want Friedman to come to Ramallah. Azam al-Ahmad made the statements on the official PA television station and said they were meant as a political message. Arab media reported that during last month's regional visit by Jared Kushner, Trump's senior advisor, Abbas refused to welcome Friedman to the de facto PA capital because of his strong advocacy for a Jewish presence in Judea and Samaria prior to his being appointed as an ambassador.
A soldier serving in the Israel Defense Forces is recovering from light wounds that he sustained during an attack by a Palestinian terrorist near Bethlehem. The assailant tried to run down Israeli troops with his car until it crashed into an electrical pole, which then fell on the victim. The assailant then exited the vehicle and tried to stab soldiers stationed in the area, who opened fire, killing the terrorist.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu welcomed the recent U.S.-Russian brokered ceasefire in southwestern Syria, but warned against Iran's involvement in the Arab Republic. The cessation of hostilities on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights is desirable, but defense officials are concerned the vacuum could be filled by Tehran-backed Islamist militias. Israel estimates that there are at least 25,000 such fighters operating in Syria on behalf of the regime of embattled President Bashar al-Assad. They include members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and the powerful Lebanese Hezbollah terror group, in addition to recruits from Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Since the outbreak of the civil war in 2011, Israel has retaliated numerous times for the firing of rockets and mortar shells that landed along its northern border. The Jewish state also carries out airstrikes on weapons convoys Iran sends to Hezbollah terrorists.
Jerusalem and Ramallah have just signed an agreement for the state-owned Israel Electric Corporation to boost power to the Palestinian Authority. Under the New Deal, an electrical substation was inaugurated near the Arab city of Jenin. Israeli Energy Minister Yuval Steinitz and PA Prime Minister Rami Hamdallah cut the red ribbon in a rare show of Israeli-Palestinian cooperation 3 years after peace talks between the two sides collapsed. The PA is dependent on the provision of electricity from the Jewish state, and the new facility will transmit 60 megawatts purchased from the Israeli corporation.
A colorful ceremony was held in Jerusalem to commemorate the opening of the 20th Maccabiah Games, which are frequently characterized as the Jewish Olympics. Around 10,000 competitors from Jewish communities across the world are participating this year, including disabled athletes, as well as juniors and seniors. 45 different contests will take place throughout Israel over the 12-day sporting event that concludes on July 16th. Maccabiah runs along Olympic guidelines, but also includes more traditional disciplines such as swimming, soccer, basketball, and tennis, as well as cricket, lawn bowls, chess, bridge, netball, ice hockey, baseball, and softball. The quadrennial games were founded in 1932 and have been held regularly except between 1938 and 1950, during the years corresponding with the Nazi Holocaust and the Arab-Israeli War that led to the founding of the modern Jewish state in 1948. The games are organized by an international Jewish movement and named after Judah the Maccabee, who led a Jewish rebellion against the Seleucid Empire some 2,000 years ago.
Turning now to the world of high tech, and an Israeli startup has come up with a way to turn the windows of parked cars into liquid glass screens for localized targeted information and advertising. The Gauzy high-tech firm developed a method to bond sheets of flexible plastic material containing a liquid crystal layer to car windows, which are clear when an electric current passes through them, but turn opaque without it. This Israeli smart glass transforms vehicles into virtual video display units. The system has its own projector and an internet-connected controller capable of downloading and displaying relevant footage and images in high-definition quality.
If you've ever wondered what an ancient industrial site might be like, you need look no further than Route 65 in the Galilee. A preponderance of agricultural installations carved into the bedrock have recently been discovered by the Israel Antiquities Authority. It's believed the area was a site of mass activity around the Middle Bronze Age, 1800 years before the Common Era, and also during the Roman-Byzantine period from the 2nd to the 5th centuries. Citations from religious Talmudic scholars attest that the production of oil from mustard plants indigenous to the area once served as a source of income for the residents of the Jewish village of Hukok. The ancient synagogue nearby features a brilliant mosaic floor portraying scenes from the Bible.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Lipnick, a professor at the Israel Institute of Biblical Studies, and today we're going to talk about the authentic Hebrew meaning of the number 7. Well, the number 7 was considered divinely perfect by the ancient Hebrews. It was an unbreakable number that could not be divided by the numbers 1 through 5 that appear on your fingers, the numbers that were used to count by the simple folk. And that number is also what people used to swear an oath, or a shvu'ah, that comes from the name Sheva, as though to say, by this holy number, I swear that the following will happen. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to learn more about the authentic meaning of the Holy Scriptures, call now or visit our website.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. We're here on a beautiful sunny day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Joseph Gittler. He is the founder and chairman of Leket. Joseph, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Joseph, tell our viewers a little bit about what is Leket.
So Leket is actually a biblical commandment where we were commanded to take care of the poor in ancient times. Farmers who were ancient businessmen needed to set aside a portion of their field, leave in the fields what fell off their wagon, and we've taken this ancient biblical precept and modernized it for today's times, wherein those of us who are fortunate enough to live in the West waste food with abandon, while at the same time we still have those struggling to put food on the table.
Like when you think of Israel, you think of a rich, powerful country. Are there really people who are going hungry, who need the food that are left on the wayside?
Sadly, in all Western countries, this seems to be our lot. And here in Israel, even though we are in the land of milk and honey, there are those who have not been able to keep up with the explosive and dynamic and frankly beautiful growth of the country. And it's still imperative on us that we find solutions to taking care of them.
there's a lot of buzz about Leket. People talk about it all the time because it's something that actually works. People are using it, it's working, it's helping the poor. What's the system? How do you actually feed the poor through the waste that's being left?
So we collect food in partnership with all different types of food donors. We work closely with the farming community to gather excess crops that aren't going to market. We work closely with the hotel industry, with the Israeli army, caterers, restaurants, and manufacturers to make sure that all this perfectly good, healthy, nutritious, edible food that hasn't made it to the marketplace ends up in the hands of those who need it. And those who need it vary from those in women's shelters, homeless shelters, Holocaust survivors, children at risk, all types of the sad circumstances that we hear about on a daily basis.
It seems like a massive operation. What kind of volunteer program do you have to be able to do this type of stuff?
So it is a big operation. We have over 100 employees, and I'm happy to say over 50,000 volunteers on a yearly basis working together with us in the fields, gathering fruits and vegetables, and even going to the lengths of picking up food in their own cars at 1 or 2 in the morning to transport to places that feed the poor. Mega operation, but mega results as well.
Most of our viewers today are Bible-believing Christians, people who watch the show, who love Israel. How can they get involved with the mission of Leket?
Okay, so lots of ways. First off, when they come to Israel, we would love to see you in the fields. There's nothing more powerful for me than seeing Christian groups in the fields connecting with the land. As a Jewish person, it's fantastic to see, and it's been one of the highlights of my years since I founded Leket. Second, this does cost money to run, so any type of support that those watching are able to provide is appreciated, and I know we will put it to excellent use.
You were honored by Nefesh B'Nefesh, the organization that brings new immigrants from the United States to Israel. How does it feel as someone who moved to Israel to have such an impact in the land of Israel?
Well, it's been an honor, first of all, to be honored by Nefesh B'Nefesh, and it's such a powerful statement to see people who've come here, and certainly people who come from countries like the United States, who've come on their own free will. No one has to leave the U.S. There's no good reason to leave the U.S. But to come here as a Jew and fulfill that commandment, that dream of thousands of years, and then not just to come here, but to be able to make a big difference in the lives of so many is truly something special. So for me, it was a special day. I had my parents there, my late father. It was his last trip to Israel, so it was a very, very special day in hindsight when I think about it. Thanks for asking about it.
You know, you're basically fulfilling the commandment of gleaning. How does it feel to be, fulfilling biblical prophecy here in the land of Israel?
So I think what I've been really specially blessed with is the opportunity, I think, to bring back 2 commandments that we seem to have forgotten. One, Leket, the gleaning opportunity, is something that actually went dormant after the destruction of the temple. So we've brought back a commandment that hasn't been followed in any way for thousands of years. And then another commandment that all of us seem to have forgotten, and that of Bal Tashchit, not wasting, which Western society, with our success, seems to have forgotten. So Leket, very simply, is an organization that puts together an ancient commandment of gleaning together with not wasting, and allows us to feed over 200,000 needy Israelis every week.
Joseph, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
So my message is continue to help us grow this organization. We have massive waste that we're still not able to get to because we don't have the resources. I would love to say to the viewers, in a couple of years from now, we're not feeding 200,000 people a week, we're feeding 500,000 people a week. That's a dream, that's what drives me every day, and hopefully will drive us all together to take care of those in need.
Thank you, Joseph, for being on the show, and thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the return to Zion with Karen Hayesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Karen Hayesod. I'm Eliezer Moody Sandberg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod, United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Today, you will witness the fulfillment of biblical prophecy through the gathering of the exiles. God bless you from Jerusalem.
In just a few short years from now, for the first time since the destruction of the Second Temple, more Jews will once again be living in Israel than in the rest of the world combined. This incredible milestone is a testament to the truth of God's prophecy, the determination of the Jewish people, and the hard work of Keren HaYesod, which for the past 90 years has dedicated itself to returning the Jewish people home. After the Roman army ransacked Jerusalem in 70 AD, the Jewish nation was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. But each generation kept faith and dreamed of returning to their ancient home. If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget her skill. May my tongue cling to the roof of my mouth if I do not remember you. Over the centuries, a tiny remnant of Jews constantly remained. By 1800, just 24,000 lived in their homeland, while untold millions built Jewish lives across the globe. Throughout the following 2 centuries, the ingathering of the Jewish people gradually became reality. In the land of Abraham and of King David's ancient kingdom, the Jewish people finally fulfilled Jeremiah's prophecy. There is hope for your future. Your children will return to their borders. The first wave of Jews arrived in the late 19th century, mainly from Russia and Yemen, pioneering some of modern Israel's most familiar cities. Soon before the First World War, they were joined by Jews fleeing the pogroms of Tsarist Russia. They founded the very first kibbutz and revived the ancient biblical language as modern Hebrew. During the 1920s, as Europe was reshaped in the aftermath of war, Jews continued to find refuge in the Holy Land, fleeing from growing anti-Semitism. Crucial to these efforts was the work of Keren HaYesod supporters, who had galvanized Jewish communities and their friends across the world in an effort to see Jews return home. This was critical in helping hundreds of thousands of Jews escape the dark clouds of Europe as the horrors of Nazi Germany became a reality. By the outbreak of World War II, the Jewish population of Israel had swelled to 250,000. This number swiftly grew during the late 1940s as the survivors of humanity's darkest hour headed to the only place they could call home. As the world reeled from the shock of Nazism, Jews were forced to flee persecution once more, this time from the Middle East and North Africa, with around 900,000 Jews expelled or forcibly removed from Arab countries between 1948 and 1970. They arrived destitute in the fledgling state of Israel, eventually playing a major role in its development. Israel has continued determinedly to rescue Jews from danger. Tens of thousands of Ethiopian Jews were airlifted to safety in the 1980s and early 1990s. In the following years, as the Soviet Union collapsed, almost 1 million Jews made the journey to Israel. With the help of Keren HaYesod supporters, they have made new lives in the land of their forefathers. 2 millennia after the Roman destruction, we believe more Jews will soon once again be living in Israel than outside of Israel. They will be living in a thriving, independent Jewish state. Finally, as Zechariah predicted, old men and women will sit in the streets of Jerusalem, filled with boys and girls playing. Join us in making this dream a reality. Bible-believing Christians around the world have a role to play in the fulfillment of this biblical prophecy. Thus says the Lord God, Behold, I will lift up my hand to the nations and set up my standard to the peoples, and they will bring your sons in their arms, and your daughters will be carried on their shoulders.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, call us at 1-800-505-1665 or visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
Warfare in the 21st century is fought not only on battlefields, it's fought on television screens, it's fought on the internet, and ultimately it'll be fought in international courts as combatants defending Western democracies will be accused of war crimes, of killing needlessly civilians behind whom our enemies hide and behind whom they shoot. That is why back in 2003, President George Bush, on the eve of America's invasion of Iraq, moved forward legislation called the American Servicemen's Protection Act. That act said explicitly that should any enemy of the United States try to sue American soldiers for war crimes in international courts, the United States would take express action against those countries or those organizations, including leveling sanctions and boycotting those countries and organizations. And what's really fascinating about the American Servicemen Protection Act is that it mentions not once but 3 times the need to extend that protection to America's allied forces. And that is a very important note for the State of Israel as America's most crucial and valued democratic ally in the Middle East, an ally which is fighting for its safety and existence every day and fighting against the same type of enemy who hides behind civilians as they try to kill our civilians and tries to accuse us of war crimes and thus sue us in international courts and deny us ultimately the right to defend ourselves and to deny us ultimately the right to exist as a sovereign, independent Jewish state. Therefore, it is in Israel's interest and in America's interest that the terms of the American Servicemen's Protection Act be extended, as that act says, to America's allies, particularly its greatest and most devoted democratic ally in the Middle East, the State of Israel.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
We love the people of Israel, and we want to show that love through social projects that help build a stronger Israel. We're passionate about offering life-changing opportunities for the disadvantaged, youth at risk, new immigrants, and minorities that help them step into a brighter future. We desire to make a difference throughout the mosaic that is Israeli society. We call this ICEJ Aid.
Christians come to help the Jewish people. It's a dream, you know? How could it be? The Christian people come to help the Jewish people, the state of Israel. For me, it's really unimaginable.
ICEJ Aid helps families break out of the cycle of poverty through educational programs such as vocational training and mentoring towards employment, as well as offering practical aid where needed most. We also support Holocaust survivors in the last years of their life. The survivors enjoy emotional and physical support in an assisted living facility where their needs are met, and they have a community of loving staff and volunteers surrounding them.
אנחנו לעת זקנה, קשה לנו לתפקד בבית, וזה ארגון בעזרת השגרירות הנוצרית, שאני יודע שהם תומכים בנו ותומכים יפה.
Pnina from Christian Embassy appeared in our life with a lot of food and what is much more important, with their love and with their willing to support.
Together with our Israeli friends, we are partnering with the God of Israel, who promised through the prophet Jeremiah, "For I will set my eyes on them for good. I will bring them back to this land. I will build them and not tear them down. I will plant them and not uproot them."
Christians around the world, they are our best friends. And Christians and Jews, we belong together.
Thank you to the Christian Embassy and Christians around the world, your support and partnership helping us to change life every day.
This aid wouldn't be possible without your help. Show the people of Israel God's love today and let her know that she's not alone. Become a partner by giving at icej.org/aid.
Experience the heart of Israel and find a renewed vision for your ministry and calling. Refresh your spirit with the Envision Pastors and Leaders Conference. Join us January 22nd through the 25th for an outpouring of knowledge and insight. Here's why you do not want to miss this conference.
I want to encourage every believer who loves God, loves the God of Israel, and loves Israel to consider being a part of Envision Conference. It's a time where you can hear from local believers, both Jewish believers and Arab, to talk about what God is doing in the land of Israel and the miracles that are happening now and the miracles to come. So would you consider being a part of this?
You'll have the opportunity to visit the Prime Minister's office and hear exclusive briefings from prominent Israeli Knesset members.
Well, if you've never been to Envision, you know there's so many blanks will be filled in your walk with God, and you get a new understanding, a new perspective of Israel and the purposes of God for our generation.
Honor the memory of lives lost in a special Holocaust remembrance ceremony at Yad Vashem.
One of the benefits of coming is the networking with like-minded individuals, a lot of young leaders in our UK gathering who are just fun to be with.
Hey, I was at Envision this year, and you should come. It will enhance your life, enhance your ministry, and enhance your call.
Visit envision.icej.org for more information.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan Elrom.
And I'm Erin Veinert, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.